Hey dudes, how you doing? I'm Matt Gear and you're watching Beginner's Guitar Lessons on Matt Gear TV. Today I'm going to give you an introduction to bar chords. Now, of all the things that you learn as a beginner guitar player, probably nothing's quite as frustrating as trying to play your first F chord with a bar, which can be really hard work, but it's really worth persevering with, because once you've figured out the approach to playing bar chords, it's basically going to increase your chord vocabulary no end, because all the normal shapes that you play in open position, you can start figuring out ways to play those further up the neck, so it's really going to increase that vocabulary of chords that you've got and make your playing a lot more interesting. So what is a bar chord? Basically, a bar chord is a chord in which you use your index finger, or maybe your second finger as well, to hold down more than one string at a time. So first of all, I'm going to play a normal open E major chord, which looks like that. So we're fretting second open E string, then second fret on the A string, on the D string, and first fret on the G string. Now, if we could keep that shape and move that up the neck, we can play other chords, other major chords. But what we need to do is, effectively, when you're playing here an open chord, you're not fretting the low E string and the top two strings because they're open. So if you like to think of it this way, effectively the nut is the fretting action, it's the fretting finger. Now what we need to do is basically replicate that up the fretboard, so that when we play here, we can bring the index finger behind that chord shape and play the same shape chord but a different chord. In this case, that's A major, that's E major. So when you first learn to play the E chord, you'll probably play it this way, E major, and you won't be fretting anything with the pinky, the little finger. So you'll be playing first finger, second finger, third finger to fret the chord. Now, to help you learn how to play this as a bar chord shape, what we're going to do is actually shift all of the fingers around one, so we free up the index finger. So where you would have your first finger, we're going to put the second. Where you would have your second, we're going to put your third, and where you would have the third, we're going to put the first. So it's exactly the same shape, but now I've got the index finger free. So what that means is I can actually shift this shape up one fret and then bring the index finger behind and play that as a bar chord. So that's now an F major chord. Now the F is really difficult to play. Reason being, it's very close to the nut, so you don't have a lot of manoeuvre on the string. It's pivoting very, very close to the nut. If you do it in the middle, you'll find it's a lot easier to make that bar shape. There's a couple of pointers to think about when you're playing the bar chords. First of all, don't think about trying to squeeze the neck of the guitar as hard as you can and squeeze that finger into the fretboard. The reason being that if you squeeze too hard, what you're going to do is actually push the chord out of tune. You can hear, if I fret one note and I push, I can actually, I'm stretching the string, I'm pushing the chord out of tune. If I do that across everything, that's not what I want to do. So there's a couple of things to bear in mind. First of all, if you look closely, it looks almost as if my finger is on top of the fret. It's not directly on top of the fret, but it's just behind. That's very important. You may have to move the finger about up and down to find how the shape of your finger fits directly with the string and with the contour of the neck. And you'll also, the finger won't be dead straight like this. There will be a slight curve to it, so it fits across the curve of the neck. What you'll also do, and I'll move back a little bit, is rather than squeezing with the hand, if you push with the finger and this arm here, so the arm of the picking hand, will be pushing back on the body of the guitar. So you see, if I let go of my fretting hand, I'm pushing with my right arm here to push the neck forward. As the neck's pushing forward, my finger's stopping it, but I'm actually pushing the finger in and pushing with my right arm. and I can actually fret that bar without my thumb on the back touching anything. It adds a little bit of a squeeze, but not too much. Okay, so there's a few things to think about. Position of the finger when you're making the bar, bend of the finger, and position of the finger relative to the fret. Make sure it's very, very close to the fret, almost on top of the fret. And then also just pulling back slightly with this finger and then pushing with the forearm here on the top of the guitar. So there's a few pointers for the bar. Once you've done that, try making these bar shapes. To start off with, you'll actually find it easier if you start right up here in the middle of the fretboard, so on the 12th fret here. So when you start doing bar chords, you will find that the edge of that bar finger, the fretting finger, will be quite sore to start off with. Same as when you start playing, the fingertips are very soft to start, and it takes a while to build up the calluses on the end of your fingers. The only way to do that really is just to keep going and build up that toughness in the finger. I'm going to show you a little exercise though that you can do, so you can actually start to build that up and start to get used to the feel of using the index finger as a bar. And remember, you're using this diagonal edge. Let me move up a little bit. You're using this diagonal edge here, not the very edge on the side, but about 30 to 45 degrees across here, and that's the edge that you're using. And if you're doing it right, you can actually see here, possibly, see some lines in my fingers, and that's the position that you want the finger to be on the fretboard. So here's an exercise for you to try out to start building up a little bit of power in the finger for playing these bar chords. Check it out. So to make this easy, we're going to start right in the middle of the fretboard, which is the 12th fret, and we're going to make a bar with the index finger only on the top 2 strings. So I want them to ring at the same time. That's the point. We're playing a chord, not a melody. So you want the 2 notes to ring at the same time. So 12th fret, 2 strings, then down 1 fret. And what you'll find is as you get closer to the neck, it gets slightly more difficult, because in the middle of the fretboard at the 12th fret, you're exactly halfway between the 2 points where the string's fixed. So the nut and the bridge. So it's quite easy to push down. When you get to the edge, you're only 1 fret away here. So you will find that a little bit more difficult. So try that. When you get down to here, you can work your way back up. Again, making sure that the finger is right next to and on top of here the fret that you're fretting against. So not in the middle or back towards the previous fret. If you're fretting on the 8th fret, as I am here, the finger will actually sit almost on top of the 8th fret. It's not directly on top here because you start then muting the string. So it's just back slightly from there. So that's 2 strings. Next 3 strings. So here, again starting on the 12th fret. And then back up again. Now 4 strings. And this is when it starts getting a little bit more difficult, because you'll find, because of the shape of the finger, maybe you're making 3 notes ring but 1 isn't. So this is where you need to start making your adjustments. So all of the strings are ringing. Next 5 strings. And then back up again, and then finally all 6 strings together. Now I know that's not a chord, well it is a chord, but it's not a particularly nice sounding chord. If you wanted to put the major shape on top of that, you can do, but this is an exercise just for the bar finger, so the index finger here. Now Now, if you can play this right first time, you're probably in the 0.01% of people around the world who actually could. I don't know a single guitar player who I've spoken to who's actually said that they didn't struggle with this to start off with. So if you can't play it first time round, don't worry about it at all. Just be patient. Try this exercise out and try to get used to where the finger needs to be, the amount of pressure that you use. Again, like I said, don't tense up. You're not trying to strangle the guitar neck. You're just placing your finger. And if you place your finger in the right place, you pull back slightly with that fretting hand, and then you push down with that elbow that's sat on the body of the guitar, you'll actually be able to get more than enough pressure. One other thing to bear in mind, the tension of the strings will make a big difference on how difficult this is for you to do. If you're playing on acoustic, it will be a lot more difficult because they're thicker strings, heavier gauges. If you're playing on an electric, the lighter the gauge strings that you've got, the easier this will be to do. Don't think that that means that you need to go out and change to lighter gauge strings. If you've got 10s, 11s or 12s on your guitar, that's fine, you can still play with those. It might just take you a little bit longer to get that clean sound. Again, just be patient. Keep doing it, do it every day, do it a couple of times a day if you can, and soon you'll start finding that you get a much, much clearer sound. So that is the E shape for now. In future lessons I'm going to show you how to start using that same bar principle to play other chords along the neck, and then you can really start getting into some interesting chord progressions. So I hope you found that useful and interesting. If you've got any questions, do just leave a comment below and I'll get back to you. If you've got any suggestions for future lessons or anything else that you'd like to know, again just put a comment below and I'll get back to you. Do subscribe to my channel, there'll be lots more lessons coming up soon, as well as gear reviews and licks and lots of other cool stuff too. I've been Matt Gear, this has been Matt Gear TV. You guys take it easy, keep practicing, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.